In this video, we're going to explain the concept of injectable content, and first we're going to use a somewhat contrived example just to explain the concept, and then we'll move on to a very practical example where the concept of injectable content is quite useful. So you can see here we have a component that, very simple component, just has 4 buttons, and the buttons are rendered in the same order that they've been placed into the components. So button 1, button 2, button 3, button 4. But now what we're going to do is we're going to put the button 1 and button 2 in a container, and we're going to change the container type from none to injectable. So this means now that the content that is shown in this container here is going to be injected somewhere else in the component. It could be injected somewhere else in the current component, or it could be injected somewhere else in a parent component that contains this component. So it's actually a very powerful concept. So we go to injectable content here, and let's go now and specify that the injection target is going to be a placeholder, and then you can see how we've put a placeholder in the component called placeholder 1. So let's just go there and choose placeholder 1. So now when we render this component, what we're going to see is button 3, button 4, and then here's the placeholder, and so button 1 and button 2 should now be rendered inside this frame. So you can see now there's button 1 and button 2 are rendered inside the frame. So by making the container type into injectable, we've been able to move the position of button 1 and button 2 from the location that they would normally render into some other location. So now, while this example here is contrived for the purpose of explaining the concept, let's take a look now at a more practical example. So in this video, you can see that we have a list control, and we've also got a container of injectable content. And if we go to the list now, and we go over to the list properties, and we go to the list header, we can see that the list header has been set here to content from injectable container. So what we're going to be doing here is putting into the list header the fields that have been displayed inside this injectable container over here. So we've got a text box and a button. So when we go ahead and run this now, we can see there's our text box and there's our button, but they're inside the list header, which means that as I scroll this list, the header should move off the screen. So you can see here as we scroll the list, there's the list header, but it scrolls off the screen because the header just shows above the first row of data. But we've been able to put rich content into the list header by using the injectable container. So this pattern of having, for example, a search box that appears in the actual data and that scrolls off the list is a common pattern in mobile applications. For example, if you look at the iOS email application, you'll see that there's a search box above the list of emails that are shown in the list control. So going back here, you can see that what we've done is we've set the injectable content type to unspecified. So the choices were div, placeholder, and unspecified, and we've used the unspecified option because the list control itself is going to specify which injectable container it would like to get content from. So let's go back now to our builder, and we can see that when we're defining the list header over here, we can put any HTML content that we want to appear in the list header, and then if we want to consume some controls from a injectable container, we can just click the hyperlink and bring up a list of all of the containers that have been marked as injectable. So here's as I said earlier, a very practical example of where the injectable content type is very useful. Thanks very much for watching.